Hello fantasy faithfuls, and welcome to the 7th team score projection video of the year featuring the Pittsburgh Steelers. The players I will be focusing on are Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, Ben Roethlisberger, Vance McDonald, and Juju Smith-Schuster. As we always do, we'll look at the market share for the team. To arrive at these numbers, I have analyzed the 2018 opponents' play trends from the last 2 years. Combining this with the team's own play trends, we get a total of 414 rush attempts and 552 pass attempts. By analyzing the Steelers' play calling from the last 3 years, they will target their number one receiver with 28% of all targets, 18% to the second guy, and only 11% to the number one tight end. The number one back usually has 67% share of all carries, with 5% going to the quarterback.
Speed the game up. Here's Roethlisberger. It's away from the sack, throws downfield, got a man who's taken it in. It's Brown again. Antonio Brown for the second time in this quarter.
Starting with the quarterback as usual, Roethlisberger will have 552 pass attempts and 21 rushing attempts. Breaking down his passing so we can use his numbers to project the rest of the team, we see that he's a quarterback that loves going deep, and especially deep outside the numbers. Furthermore, he throws 4th most passes over the short middle in the entire league. His deep zone accuracy is below league average by 5% to the left and 9 over the middle, so he'll be off target more than other quarterbacks in those zones. However, the deep right is where he throws the most and his most accurate zone, even on par with his short zones. The deep right is where he makes most of his deep balls. In all the stats, he throws there the most, it's where he's most accurate and where he's most productive when it comes to yards per completion. I know I haven't touched in the short zones too much, but he's very accurate and not so productive. His touchdown rate over the last 3 years is 5.1%, which is above league average, so it's all good. The sack rate is really good with 3.9%, with a league average of 6.1%. So this is an amazing stat for Roethlisberger. Almost 3% of his throws end up in the hands of the defenses. Not too bad, but not amazing. Fun fact, Roethlisberger is a clutch QB. He gains 5 more yards per completion during playoffs compared to seasonal games. His one-game floor over the last 3 years has been 9.1, and his one-game ceiling, 25.5. Not numbers that excite me at all. From his own passing, the pass catcher's abilities, his rushing trends, the opponents, and sack trends, we arrive at a score projection. Roethlisberger will score 177 points from his passing, 4 from rushing, 104 from touchdowns, and 239 in total.
Roethlisberger on a give. Le'Veon Bell the cut. Bell breaks a tackle. Bell trying to go all the way. Le'Veon Bell, touchdown Steelers. What a run by Bell.
Next up is Le'Veon Bell with 302 carries and 87 targets. Breaking down his rushing to 7 lanes, we see that 29% of all his carries goes to either side of the center and 17% outside the right guard. Outside left tight end is where he runs the fewest with 5% of his carries. His yards per carry are the highest when he runs outside the right tight end, while his worst is outside the right guard, which is not too good since many of his runs go in that direction. Fun fact, Bell is a fantasy playoff running back. He scores 70% of all his touchdowns in the month of December. Le'Veon Bell's touchdown rate over the last 3 years has been 3.0%, and I expect this to stay the same considering the amount of touches he has. It's a really good amount. Bell sees so many targets that his receiving becomes extremely important. He catches almost everything thrown to him and gains almost a first down on every catch, with the short middle being his best zone. His one-game floor has been 8.9 points over the last 3 years, and his one-game ceiling, 26.7. So he scores like his quarterback, which is something about him and also about his quarterback. From his own rushing, receiving, the team's blocking abilities, Big Ben's passing trends, and the opponents in 2018, we arrive at Bell's score projection, and it lands as follows. 135 points from the ground, 44 from the air, 66 from touchdown, and 245 in total.
2. Oh, and it's caught! No way! By Brown inside the 20, and he's in for the touchdown off the ricochet.
Now let's look at Antonio Brown, who I projected for 156 targets and 104 receptions. Brown has no weak zone when it comes to catching. Even if the deep middle only has 41%, it is close enough to league average to not be concerned. Catching the ball this well over the entire field combined with seeing targets everywhere is to me one of the reasons Brown is so difficult to defend against. You just never know where he will burn you next. I never thought I would say this, however, but Brown's weakness is his lack of yards per catch. And when I say weakness, I mean compared to how well he catches the ball, but also compared to the league averages. His average goes down because of the massive workload. Fun fact, Brown struggles with his yards in the third quarter, only getting 10 yards per catch compared to 13 in the other 3 quarters. His touchdown rate has been 6% over the last 3 years, which is amazing, especially with the amount of targets he sees. Brown's one-game floor over the last 3 years has been 6.1, and his ceiling 23.1, making him my highest-ranked wide receiver in the entire league. From his own receiving, Big Ben's passing, and the opponents they will face in 2018, we arrive at a score projection for Antonio Brown. He will score 127 points from receiving, 48 from touchdowns, and 175 in total.
9. Detroit trying to pin him deep. And Roethlisberger gives him a lot of room here. Juju Smith-Schuster off to the races. Inside the 30, the 20, the 10. Touchdown. 97 yards.
Last up, we have Juju Smith-Schuster, who I have projected for 100 targets and 61 receptions. Smith-Schuster fits Big Ben very well with being extremely reliable in the deep right zone. Remember that Roethlisberger preferred going deep to the right with all his stats pointing to it, and Smith-Schuster catches almost 70% of all balls thrown to that zone. It's a great match, especially with him being less reliable in shorter zones. His yards per catch was ridiculous in 2017 and will not stay the same this year, but he showed how dangerous he can be when the ball is thrown to him. He will not always catch it, but when he does, you should be scared, and especially if the throw is longer than 15 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. Fun fact, Smith-Schuster is a beast in the month of October. He gained 20 yards per completion during that time in 2017. His touchdown rate last year was 9.1%, which will go down to 6.9 in this projection with some negative regression coming his way. His one-game floor last year was 3.4, and his ceiling was 16.6, which changed slightly in 2018. Expect him to raise his floor by a couple of decimal points. From his own receiving, Big Ben's passing, and the opponents they will face in 2018, we arrive at Smith-Schuster's score projection. He will score 86 points from his receiving, 42 from all touchdowns, and 128 in total. Lastly, a final look at their fantasy points in relation to last year's fantasy stats. I'm not too high on Ben Roethlisberger at all compared to other quarterbacks. He's a great QB, but we have better options in fantasy. Bell and Brown are who they are, and they would have finished third last year with these projections, which is great, and I expect them to be amazing again. Smith-Schuster is very interesting. He goes 41st overall right now, which is great seeing as I have him outscoring Brandon Cooks by 30 points, and he goes 42nd overall. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more weekly content. And as always, the spreadsheets are dark and full of terror. Hello Fantasy Faithful, I hope you enjoyed that video. Don't forget to check out more of them right here and here. In case you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a beat.